Jim Sterk made a little bit of we love guys like Jim Sterk because he just gives us so much to talk about on talk radio, especially with a story today in the Union Tribune titled SDSU wants Big 12 to consider it. We've talked with Jim Sterk. We've touched on this in the past, but this is certainly as much as we've ever heard about it. So we appreciate his time, and here he is on the Corky's Hotline in XX1090. Jim, Darren Smith, thank you very much.
Darren, thanks for having me. I thought it was a slow news day, so I put that out there.
You are so good at what you do, and we certainly appreciate that. You know, you gave Hacksaw like 4 hours. You've given me about 2 hours today. I'm sure the morning guys did something on it as well. So you are killing it. Thank you very much for the content.
All right.
All right, let me start first with, before we get to the Big 12 stuff, I do at least want to ask you about your program coming up here on Thursday night. Are you guys, did you have a say in playing on a Thursday night with a quick turnaround coming off TCU?
No, surprisingly not. That was a shocker to me when the TV schedule came out and with that game. And I was in the middle of raking them through the coals of, you can't do this. And they've told me that, that the league has done it 7 other times. And Rocky pointed out that Air Force, did go to Notre Dame, did go to Navy the previous 2 weeks, and so it's okay. It's not great. I think Rocky's right that it's not great, for the players from the standpoint of recovery time. Usually, if you're playing on a Thursday, you try to have that previous weekend off so that you have that recovery time. And so then we instead of having it in the previous week, we have it the week after, which gives us a long break, and I don't like it.
I don't blame you one bit, especially when you got to pack everybody up and hop on an airplane, get up there and go in the Air Force. I guess I would just ask this. Does every team have to play a Thursday night? I mean, how many Thursday night games are there in conference?
No, I don't know the number. There's only one or two, I think, this year. But they've done it 7 times in the league, over a 13-year period, so it's not that often.
Okay, well, fair enough. At least you look for a silver lining. You get yourself on national television for an evening, I guess.
Yeah, and it does. It's a great game, and it was from the start of the year. This was going to be a good one to be at and to have on TV, and so it'll be great to have it on CBS. They do a good job of producing the game.
Jim Sterk, San Diego State Athletic Director on XX1090. All right, let's get to the juicy stuff here, and that would be, and if I'm wrong in the way I'm presenting this, Jim, feel free to jump in at any time, but it certainly sounds like you guys are trying to sell San Diego State athletics to the Big 12. Is that true?
Well, when I came to San Diego State, I actually at my press conference I said I was a sleeping giant, and I have felt since I've been here that this place is undervalued, if you will, as far as what's gone on and the transformation that's taken place over the last decade or so, institutionally from the academic standpoint, and then athletically. And really last year was kind of a spotlight on that, but really, football was the last one to turn it. But we've had programs, in the top 25. We had 9 of our programs in the top 25 last year. We had 2 end up or were in the top 5 in the country in men's basketball and golf, and we've had since last year, our football and men's basketball program has the best record in the country. So no one can beat us. We're 3 ahead, and we've got a cushion of 3, and we want to continue to extend that lead with a win Thursday night. But that's something that people don't know. People don't know that 62,000 kids apply to get into San Diego State, and those admitted have a 3.78 and 11.48 SAT. So I felt it was my job to make sure that people, my peers around the country, that the folks that put the programs on TV, those TV executives, start to find out about San Diego State. So I've taken a proactive approach with that.
Well, Jim, if I could be very respectfully blunt about it, does anybody really care, though, about your soccer team or about some of the other sports? I mean, isn't this just all about football?
Well, it's football and basketball. I mean, those are the two that really, drive the wagon and push it forward, and are revenue-producing sports, and where you can get TV contracts that generate, the kind of revenue that you need to run the program. People talk about the dollars that that are being generated, but they're being plugged back in. The scholarships continue to go up, those expenses go up, and we need to find ways to fund them. And so athletic directors are searching for revenue streams to do that. We're
talking to Jim Sterk on Double X 1090, and just so people understand where I'm coming from there, I'm not knocking anybody who has a family member who's playing women's soccer or whatever at San Diego State. It's just that this is so much all about football, and right? I mean, it's not about basketball, it's not about baseball, it's not about water polo or any other sport. This is everything that we're seeing here with conference realignment is all about football, right?
Yeah, and really that became evident last year when people were talking about realignments and all, and Kansas was surprised that they were out there with their basketball program that's had tremendous success, and they weren't being discussed. They were going to be merging with us into a conference possibly, or the Big East. So it is a football issue.
Jim, when you look at it, it's easy to look here at the Mountain West Conference last couple of years. Utah goes, BYU goes, TCU obviously has had a very adventurous 12 months to say the very least. It seems like Air Force is on the verge of going. Who knows about Boise State? How do you feel about the Mountain West Conference right now? I mean, is the Mountain West Conference in trouble?
No, actually, I think the Big East is in trouble. The Mountain West Conference is not in trouble from that standpoint. I think it had stability up until last year. I think it was one of the more stable conferences. But then last year with Utah and BYU going, and then TCU was kind of a surprise to the Big East, and I think they. The Big East is really, really scrambling. I think the Mountain West Conference has a good core of schools, and we can continue to go. And I think it could and should be a BCS conference. It's performed way better than the Big East, and will continue to do so. So I'm excited about the future with that, but. This thing's very fluid. During the summer we were talking whether the Big 12 and Mountain West Conference would be merging together. You never know what's out there, and so that's part of the education process of why I need to protect San Diego State and let people know about what's going on here.
But I guess I'm confused though. If the Mountain West Conference is in such good shape, why do we see TCU leaving it? Why is Air Force on the verge of going and joining the Big East? You guys at least seem to be doing what I think is the responsible thing to do for your university. If the Mountain West Conference is in such good shape, why is everybody always leaving it?
It's in good shape, but I think there's what it doesn't have. I think is a television contract that's driving millions of dollars, and it's better than what they had initially. But the television contract is probably the most significant thing that's a difference. For instance. Big 12 schools are revenue sharing, I think this coming year, about $20 million or more from their primary TV contract, and we're revenue sharing $1.5 million. And as I said earlier about, trying to figure out how you pay for programs, all those soccer programs, all those track programs and the scholarships that go with them and the expenses, you're trying to find ways to do that, and if you have a TV contract like that, it certainly helps.
Do you think that the Mountain West Conference could ever find itself in a television contract like that?
Well, we that's been on my top agenda item and the league's top agenda item for the year and a half, closing in on 2 years that I've been here. And we need to do that, and so it's always on the agenda. How do we do this? We're undervalued right now as a conference, and some consultants have said that this conference could be, instead of getting $14 million, it should be a $50 million or $60 million contract per year. And that would sure help all of us as we're trying to pay for our programs.
Well, does the fact that there's been so much movement in the conference, do you think that it hurts the television dollars because Utah goes, because BYU goes, because TCU goes, because you guys are looking around, Air Force look, and I'm trying to decide if I were a television network, why would I put my money in the Mountain West Conference when it seems like everybody just wants to bail out?
Well, yeah, it's almost a chicken and egg thing, but we're in the middle of a 10-year agreement with a 4-year rollover, and it's President Weber called it indentured servitude. We're in this contract, and I think it hasn't it hasn't grown with the conference, and if it would have, I don't think you would have seen a BYU leave. But BYU struck out on its own and cut its own deal because they felt like they could, one, have the BYU network and put their programs on, but they could drive revenues from the few games that they got on ESPN or whatever to pay for or make up the conference revenue sharing with TV. So the TV contract has been the issue with the conference as far as why programs are going. Utah goes from 1.5 million to 22 million that they're going to be revenue sharing in the Pac-12. So that's a no-brainer.
Can't argue with it at all. We're talking to Jim Sterk, San Diego State Athletic Director on XX 1090. Jim, I'm going to assume if you have made overtures towards the Big 12, can I also assume then that you've made overtures towards the Pac-12?
Well, I'm educating everyone, and I don't know what's going to happen, and it's not like we're out selling our soul, but I want to educate people so that they understand what the marketplace is and that we can deliver it. Give you a great example. Last our Washington State game, it was tape delayed, and it was on Channel 4 and the Mountain, and in the county here, the 3 million households or 3 million people, we were the highest rated football game that day in comparison with Stanford, Arizona, which was on ESPN, Washington, Nebraska on ESPN, and Texas and UCLA were on ABC. And our rating was better on a tape-delayed basis against Washington State. So not many people know that. And you've got to look at that. And the Pac-10, when I came, I just felt, their assumption is, and they count it as a residual market, that UCLA and USC dominate this marketplace. And from being in the marketplace, and I know after living here, it doesn't. You don't hear about UCLA or USC unless it's an issue like the Reggie Bush issue, and so that's a unique. People don't know that, and they're not aware of that, or I want to make sure that they're aware of that. Now, where that leads, I don't know, but whether it's today, tomorrow, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, I think this program has and will continue to grow in a significant way, and I'm excited about the future. We're
talking to Jim Sterk. So that's a yes? You have contacted the
Pac-12? That's a long-winded. They received information just like a number of other people.
Well, what's interesting about that, Jim, is obviously, as you just mentioned there, and in case anybody doesn't know it, you used to be the athletic director at Washington State. So you've, I'm sure, sat around with the fellow athletic directors inside the Pac-10 when it was the Pac-10 before it was the Pac-12. What was their thought, and I guess your thoughts on San Diego State joining the conference when you actually were part of that inner circle?
And really, we relied on TV consultants. And at that time, they when I was in those meetings, that they felt the only one that really brought significant change to the television contract was Texas and the Texas market. So that's why last year the Pac-10 went after getting Texas and Texas A&M to come to the league. And when that didn't happen, and they took Colorado, it was purely strategic. It was purely a strategic move to break up the Big 12, and then hopefully get the Texas and Texas A&M to come to the Pac-10. And by the way, I'll take Oklahoma and Oklahoma State as a sidebar, but I'll take those schools if I can get Texas, and then it would help increase their television package. They didn't get them at the last minute, and so Utah was brought in to round it out to a 12-team league, and then have a football playoff, and they hit the mark at the right time, and got a great TV package. And Larry Scott did a great job leading them through that. But it was purely strategic, taking Colorado. It wasn't because of their marketplace or anything else. It was breaking up the Big 12.
That is really interesting that you say that. Jim Sterk on Double X 1090. Jim, the one thing when we've brought this up today with the fans, the one thing a San Diego State fan says, and I understand this perspective here because they don't understand the economics and the dollars of it all, but the one thing that's been said is, well, why would we want to join a conference where we're just going to get our heads beaten in here for the next couple of years by Texas and Oklahoma State and everybody else? Is there an angle to that where you think about having to play the actual sport? And we're seeing what happens with Utah going in and going to a different conference. Is there anything that you think about with regards to joining a major conference and taking a step back as a program?
Well, I look at it, and I asked Rocky Long that question, and he said, we have as tough of programs here as they do there. I was at Washington State, and we beat Texas in the Holiday Bowl. We beat Washington State this year, and they've beaten Colorado. We beaten Army. They've beaten Northwestern. Those aren't the top programs in their leagues right now, but they're in those leagues and they can compete. And I think San Diego State can compete in any league. There might be an adjustment period of time, but we can compete, and we want to win the Mountain West Conference championship. So that's our goal this year.
It's like I said earlier. Sometimes you got to take a step back to take a step forward, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. We're talking to Jim Sterk on Double X 1090. It would have been a good week, by the way, to beat TCU.
Yeah, it would have been fun.
Right? I mean, just in terms of saying, hey, you're taking them, and look what we just did to them. So it would have been a very good week on that front. Well, Jim, at the end of the day, what conference do you want to be playing in? Would you rather be in the Big 12 or would you rather be in the Mountain West?
If we can have, if we can work out our automatic qualifier and we can change our TV deal, I love the league. And it's a great league. It's a diverse league, and it would be great to make it work here. And if I can do anything to help that, I'm certainly trying to do that.
Do you think Air Force will leave the Mountain West?
I don't think so.
Do you think Boise State will leave the Mountain West?
I don't think so either.
Okay. Do you think BYU will join the Big 12?
Now, is it the Big 12 with Missouri gone?
It's an excellent question. You're right. I mean, I can't really answer that until we know something about Missouri.
I would say right now, no. If Missouri goes, then there's a chance. Yeah.
What an interesting time. Now, how is any of this by any means the Chargers, the stadium, more money, not just for the athletic program, but for the possibility of what San Diego State might have to do with regards to a future place to play? Is there any angle to you guys wanting to join a bigger conference because of the uncertainty of the Chargers in San Diego?
No, that's not an issue. It's an issue to deal with, wherever we're playing. So, whatever league we're in and whatever. But I think, we're actually, we're leading the league in attendance right now, the Mountain West Conference, and we're really excited about the growth and the interest. We had over 10,000 students come to the game. I like, that they can hop on the trolley and head to the game, and they're coming out in droves and creating an atmosphere. The TCU AD, Chris Delconte, was just, really shocked. There was the Vegas Bowl executive director was there, and she was just amazed at our atmosphere and how it's changed, and we want to continue to build upon that. So I think we can be, we are a player in the marketplace, and people are interested. Our TV ratings show that. Our attendance is starting to show that. Obviously, basketball last year, selling out those 13 of 15 games, and the way the season tickets have sold now, we can bring people to the table, and that's exciting to be a part of.
Jim, thank you very much. You going up to Air Force?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Safe travels. Really appreciate it. Excellent insight, and I definitely learned something here in the last 15, 20 minutes or so. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
You got it. Jim Sterk, San Diego State Athletic Director.